Normally, when it comes to shonen series, when the main female character steps up and is like, I'm tired of being useless, I'm tired of relying on the main male character to do everything for me, to hold me up, to carry me along his journey, that usually ends up in failure, to where eventually the female character ends up crying, or she needs help from someone else, or overall the development of this female character is kind of reverted. This is something that is done quite often in shonen, to where the development that is taking place is reversed, and it's like it didn't even happen in the first place, because the same mistake keeps popping up throughout the shonen, and with this character. But that is not the case with Ochako. And that is what separates her from the standard shonen female character, main female character, is because this episode showed she is going through quite the development. Number one, episode starts off with Ochako versus Bakagou. And let's kind of look at the details here, okay? It was very obvious since the very beginning, Bakagou had the upper hand. This man's quirk ability is really strong. He makes explosions with his sweat. He is ridiculous, and it has a lot of capabilities. He has good combat skills when it comes to hand-to-hand and stuff. It would be very hard for someone like Ochako to go up against someone like that, because the way he has this big, large blast radius, his AoE, and all of that, someone like Ochako that can only levitate things, like make things zero gravity, that obviously she would be at a disadvantage. However, even though all of these things were stacked against her, she still tried to hold her own and stand up against Bakagou. And here is the thing that makes her very different. She didn't want any help from Izuku at all. She wanted no help. She didn't want him to give her any details, the fighting pattern of Bakagou, or anything. She wanted no help at all. She wanted to do everything on her own. And her point of this was to say that I want to continue moving on and becoming stronger as well. You are like a rival right now. All of us in school that are taking these tests, doing these things, we are rivals, because you gotta remember what the purpose of this tournament is about in the first place. Number one, as we know, it's to kind of throw yourself out there. It's kind of like to showcase what you can do, your abilities, and if anyone wants to hire you. If any of the other heroes and agencies and all that want to bring you on board and make you a potential sidekick or whatever. That's kind of the purpose of what is going on with this tournament. It's not just about kids going in, beating the shit out of each other, just having, a quick, festival or tournament or whatever. It's about putting yourselves out there and allowing people to take notice of their skill. And so that is the point here. They're not just fighting, they're advertising themselves, and it just shows what type of person they are. And as we know, there's a bunch of heroes out there that are separate. For instance, they do their own thing, they make their own money, they are not working with other heroes. Sometimes they may have to work with each other, but overall, they're their own separate thing that deal with their own separate problems. So because of this, all the individual characters of our class being rivals, it makes sense, because that's how heroes are in the real world as well. They are all rivals, competing organizations or agencies going up against each other for they can continue moving up the ranks. For instance, All Might and Endeavor, as we know how Endeavor is and how he wants to move up and he wants to beat All Might. Basically, we have seen this firsthand throughout this arc. So because of that, it makes sense when Ochako says it. She is a rival. She is basically a rival to Izuku and everyone else there. And when Ida mentioned it, it made her realize what was the real point of this entire competition in the first place. If she was to rely on, Izuku to tell her what to do or tactics, whatever, she's not really putting herself out there. She's not really advertising who she is and what she is capable of. She's mainly just riding off of the potential of Izuku. So she wanted to be herself. She wanted to show herself. She didn't want no one else to falsify her image for her. So basically, that is something that you normally see from a shonen, yes. However, like I said, in normal shonen, usually this development is either reverted or just doesn't really lead to anything in the first place. However, I will be the one to say, since I am up to date with the manga, no spoilers, don't worry, but since I'm up to date, I will say that this is really good development, and it leads to a lot of really wonderful character development for Ochako, so don't worry. She is a really good character, and has definitely had a purpose, and I think everybody can agree with how this episode was in the first place. I mean, let's look at it. Ochako standing up to Bakagou. Even Bakagou got development, too. That was something that many probably noticed, and probably was like, holy crap, which I will get into that. But Ochako, she went up against Bakagou, no help at all, and she had her own plan. She had a plan in sight to bring him down. She wanted him to kind of blow up the arena to where different parts of the arena just, fall to the ground. And then she could levitate these things above the arena and then drop them on top of Bakagou and basically win. She could have an opening. She was creating an opening for herself to be able to face him, which is really amazing because you got to remember, the odds were stacked against Ochako. She was on a plain arena. She didn't really have anything to use against him, and so she had to make it to where Bakagou created her a weapon. She was making him use his quirk to create a weapon before she could attack him. So this is kind of how the real situation in real life would be, because when you're up against villains in real life, you're going to be probably in many situations to where you're not going to have anything to really help you out. Your overall quirk could be at a disadvantage. For instance, let's say the villain has a water ability, like he's a water-based quirk user, and you're a fire-based quirk user. Obviously, he'll probably overcome you, so you're at a disadvantage. And let's just say you are someone that uses fire, but you're out in the middle of the ocean, okay? Obviously, the environment is at a disadvantage, and that's kind of what's going on here with Ochako. When you're in a situation, a real-life situation, danger situation, when you have a villain in front of you, the environment might be against you. You might not have anything to work with. And because of that, that is something you need to overcome. You need to use your mind to overcome that. And that's what Ochako had to do. She had to use her mind to be able to go up against someone that obviously had all of the advantage to overcome her. For instance, she had to use something, use her mind, to be able to create an opening that normally shouldn't have been possible in the first place. Now, here's the thing though. If Bakagou was someone that wasn't that smart, if he was someone that let rage and anger and all of that control him, he would have lost. He legit would have probably lost in this episode. But thanks to him maturing, thanks to him not being stupid, thanks to him having a mind on his shoulders, that is why he didn't lose. Even if Ochako was guaranteed and wanted him to do that, wanted him to blow up the floor, the point stands is thanks to Bakagou taking her serious is why he won in the first place. So it shows perfect development for both of these characters. Number one, Ochako, she didn't factor too far into the plan. She thought that she could take him down, but she didn't think about what would happen if her plan didn't work in the first place. She didn't have a backup plan. So that's why she lost after that. However, Bakagou, he was very cautious. He could have probably ended it really quickly, but he didn't want to get that in his head. He wanted to take his time and make sure everything was fine. Even if he had an advantage, he didn't want to assume he automatically had the win, which is something we need to all factor into this. Like I said, he had the advantage, but he didn't let that get to his head. Because if he would have been outsmarted, and he would have gotten destroyed by Ochako. Because all it would have taken was Ochako to hit him once, just tap him, him levitating, it's over. He's out of bounds. Nothing he can do. So, that right there is why he was being very cautious. He didn't want anything to go wrong. He had the advantage, but it could have easily been lost with one little simple mistake. So, that shows that Boku acknowledges Ochako. He acknowledges her for her skill. He acknowledges her for being someone that he needs to really go up against and challenge and go all in. He wasn't holding back. He was thinking about the combat. He was thinking about what she was capable of. And that right there is showing that Bakagou isn't like he once was when the series first began. He's actually kind of respectable. You can admire him. And when, he asked Izuku, Izuku, did you tell Ochako anything, give her a plan? He's like, no, I didn't do that. That was all Ochako that did that. That will make Bakagou open up his eyes, like, holy crap, like, she was able to do something like that without, the help of Izuku that knows me rather well. That's going to make him realize that he can't just take certain people serious. You got to take everyone serious. Even if they look like a jokester, someone that you can't really take serious, you should still take them seriously because they could still probably do something that you're not expecting. So this is a really good lesson for him. Now, besides that, let's talk about the aftermath. So Ochako, obviously, she lost, and she continued to press forward even when she hit the ground. She continued to try to continue to win. And she didn't have any plan, but she still tried to push forward, but in the end, she still lost. And we see a scene with Izuku walking in, trying to talk to her about it, and she puts on this strong front, where she's fine, everything's okay, she's not upset, she's just trying to move forward, basically, like she will do it again. And she's putting up a really nice act, but once, Izuku finally leaves, she lets that facade fall off, and she basically starts crying and gets very upset, which is very human, because normally people wouldn't want them to see that side of them, see them be sad or upset, so they'll put on a happy face, and once they finally leave it, they're by themselves, they'll let the emotions out, and that's what Ochako did. She let her emotions out because she didn't know what to do. She was really upset, and she failed her parents. As we know, Ochako's objective was to basically make money for her parents, to help her parents out, and that's her dream right now. It's a noble dream. It's a really nice and noble dream she wants to do. And so, because of this, when she failed, it's kind of like she failed her parents. And she was upset about that. And basically, because of all of this, she continues to want to move forward, to try harder for she can get even better. And she's not going to give up. She's just very upset with herself because she couldn't continue to hold on and actually win. So she realized her failure, she realized what she did wrong, and she accepts that, and just she's really upset because she failed herself, but also failed her parents. So, very good stuff, very good development Ochako got, and a powerful episode of Boku no Hero Academia. Now, one last thing I do want to talk about is the Izuku scene with Endeavor. So, Endeavor, he talks to Izuku, he pops up and he's like, I want to talk to you, and basically, don't disgrace yourself. That's what Endeavor tells Izuku. Don't disgrace yourself because your power is very similar to All Might, which obviously Endeavor doesn't really know, but still, basically, he's like, don't disgrace yourself because my boy is going up against you, and Izuku's like, look, I'm not All Might, don't use me as an All Might replacement, and also Todoroki, he is not you. He is not you, Endeavor. He's his own separate person. So you need to get that in your skull that that isn't you, and I'm not All Might. And that was basically Izuku just telling Endeavor like it is. Standing up to the second greatest hero like, look, chill. Shut the fuck up and let your son do what he wants with his life. That was an awesome scene, and I mad respect points for Izuku standing up to that man and saying it like it is. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week because we're going to have, Izuku versus Todoroki, which is going to be very exciting, because, look, Izuku is our main male character, and then we have Todoroki, which has been getting a lot of setup and build-up throughout this arc with development, so it's going to be very good. I'm really interested in the fight to see how it's animated, how badass it's going to be, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.